So welcome back, everybody. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, but I never really got the opportunity. Today everything lined up and it just kind of made sense for me to take y'all along and let y'all in on this. This is our Christmas tree farm. This is a project that we started about 3 years ago, and it just was a way for us, of course, to make a little bit of extra income, but we had a little bit of extra land that was basically clear. Didn't need a whole lot of effort to get it cleared out the rest of the way, and it just kind of made sense for us to put trees on the land rather than letting it sit there and grow up or cut it every year. It just kind of made sense. So this is what we did. We planted these trees. These are Murray cypresses. They are a derivative or a cultivar of Leland cypress. The difference is these trees are a little bit thicker and they're more fungus resistant than Leland cypresses. And of course you can see they grow very, very quickly. This tree is one of the originals. It's 3 years old, and before I trimmed it, it was probably up to here or so. But a lot of these trees are well above my head already, so you can see how quickly they grow. So today we're going to plant some more. We've got 100 more trees to plant, all Murray cypresses, and I'm going to take y'all along and show you how I lay out the rows and how we get these in the ground and how we kind of maintain these trees for maximum growth, and you put them in the right area so that they get the proper amount of sunlight and great conditions for good growth. We've learned a lot about where not to plant these trees in the last 3 years, so I'm going to show you all where to plant them and how we plant them to get maximum results out of them. So here's one of the flats of saplings. They're actually called liners, Murray cypress liners. They come in these flats of 36 a piece, and I got 3 of these flats here. Now, like I said, I paid, what did I pay? 80 cents a piece for these. They're usually about 80 or 85 cents a piece. And this year, here's a pretty good deal every year, but these this year are really, really nice. These are much taller than the ones that I normally get. Usually the ones that I get are about up to here or so. And these are extremely nice. So I'm looking forward to see what these do. That's a pretty good jump start this year for these. So let's lay out our rows and work on getting these in the ground. So this is really not rocket science, but it's really, really important that you get these rows laid out straight. It'll save you a lot of grief in the future. So what I've got here is a stick, just a measuring stick here. It's 8 feet long. I like to put these trees 8 feet apart. I did 7 feet the first year and it just kind of turned out to be much too close. 8 feet seems to be pretty good. And so what we'll do is we will go to the base of this tree and measure out 8 feet right here. And we'll make sure it's reasonably straight with the rest of it. And then we'll stick a little stake in the ground right here so that we'll just kind of mark the end right there. And now we'll take a rope or something and lay out the rest of this row. And now we'll put our other marker at this end of the row. And we'll move on to the next step. So you may choose not to do this, and that's completely fine, but I find that this makes my life a whole lot easier, is to spray some Roundup in between the rows where you're going to put the trees. This does not hurt the trees at all, of course. Roundup is only effective if it hits leaves and stuff. So we're just going to spray out this row for weed control. So now we're going to remove our flag at one end and we're going to replace it with a tree. That way I can use my flag for the next row, but I'll still have my row marked off. And that way that'll give this Roundup a chance to dry so we don't get it on any of the branches of the trees. So now we want to measure over from the tree that we just placed, 8 feet. And we also want to measure over from our existing trees to make sure we get proper spacing on these rows, and that'll do it right there. And we'll do basically the same thing on the other end, except we'll just measure it over from one direction. All right, so I went ahead and went all the way down to where the first year's planting ended. And we're gonna go ahead and lay out the rows, and then we'll see how many trees we have left. And we've had enough time for the Roundup to dry, so there's really no threat to the trees or anything else at this point. So we're done laying the rows out. We've got all of the trees plopped down where they need to go. We did 14 rows of 6 in each row. Thankfully I didn't have to clean out any more brush. And there we go. We've got 18 left in this flat here. We're going to use these to fill in the spots where other trees have either died or been removed. And I'm going to put some up at our house as well to build like a privacy barrier. This right here is the other side of the driveway. This was the first year we planted these trees. These are called Burkeyes, B-U-R-K-I-I, I believe. And these are like a cultivar of eastern red cedar. They're much slower growing, as you can see. And basically I've switched all of what I'm doing to Murrays instead of these. These are pretty nice, but I know those Murrays grow a lot faster and they're much thicker and nicer. So now we're ready to go ahead and start planting these trees. I like to use a post hole. Well, I don't like to use a post hole digger, but I do use post hole diggers. Let me get y'all some better lighting here. Hopefully that's a little bit better. I like to use post hole diggers for this because, you know, you could use just a regular dibble, I guess you could call them, the little spade things that go in the ground and kind of push the dirt to the sides. But I like to have a lot of loose dirt right in the hole where I'm planting it so that, you know, there's not a lot of resistance for the roots. And that just, to me, I feel like it gets, you'll get better root establishment and better root growth if you do that. So this is kind of like the way that I like to do it. We got about 6/10 of an inch of rain yesterday, which was great. I'm hoping that the dirt is a little bit softer. And it is, it's actually pretty soft. And that's it. Let's get in a little bit closer here. And that's it. That's one tree. Only 84 to go. So I wish I had thought of this in previous years, but shovel seems to do a much better job. And it's a lot less labor intensive. Some of y'all were probably thinking that. got?
Another one? Come here. He's looking at the tree like,
I'd rather have,
why are you giving me the trash?
I'd rather have the tree.
You want the tree? No, I thought you were cleaning up the trash for us.
So guys, Mrs. FLR is in the background right now, finishing up putting the trees in the ground. I wanted to go over a few things that we've kind of learned these last 3 years planting these trees, and some of them really should have been pretty obvious, but you know, sometimes you have to do things. I'm sorry for all this road noise. Sometimes you have to do things in order to really understand how important they are, I guess. But if you see over here, these are the first planting of the trees right here, the ones we did on the very first year, and they're doing really, really good. Behind me, I don't think you can see, I'll get a little bit of a closer shot here in a minute. Directly behind me are the second year, and over on this side would have been the third year, and you can see, well, you wouldn't be able to see them, you're kind of far away. You can see they're all gone. So I want to explain why. So the very first year we planted them, and we did what we're about to do here, which was we watered them in. I've got a spray tank for my four-wheeler, and we watered them in, and that did really, really good. The second year, I don't think we did that, but we must have had enough rain for it to work pretty well, because the second year did pretty good also. The third year, which was last year, they all died because number one, I didn't water them in. Number two, we got too late of a start on them. And number three, we had a bad drought and it killed every last one of them. So that was pretty bad. So the things that we have learned: water them in if it's not going to rain, keep them away from trees. These trees need full sun in order to grow out symmetrically and to grow well. So it's really critical that you don't plant these right up under trees, and I'll show you why. I'll take y'all around and show y'all why. So there's the first year right over there, those big tall green nice ones. Here's the second year, and I don't think we watered these in. They really should be farther along than they are, but they're not, and it's pretty well our fault. So right here is a good example. You see these trees are growing pretty nicely. These trees are growing not that great, quite honestly, but right in here we're getting no growth whatsoever, and there were lines of trees right in here. So that just shows we can't plant these up under trees, and that really should have been evident, but you know, I guess I'm stubborn and just had to do it for myself. But let's go over here. Once we get out into the sun, we see pretty decent growth. This is the second year, like I said, and if we had watered these in, they would probably be farther along. So just to kind of give y'all an idea of what's required, there are certain steps you just can't skip here. Over here was where we planted last year, and there are absolutely no trees at all. They all died. Number one, like I said, we didn't water them in. We had a drought, and we did it a little bit too late. You can usually plant this type of tree any time of year. You just got to make sure they get water. And here we've got this year's trees. Mrs. FLR is picking up the cups. So here we've got rows of this year's trees. Let's go up and get the four-wheeler with the tank and get these watered in. How was it?
Fun. It really was fun. The weather was nice.
Yeah, it's very nice out here. We had a good day for it.
Yes.
So guys, here's what I use to water these trees in. This is just a general purpose ATV or whatever sprayer from Northern Tool. I think it's 26, 27 gallons, something like that. But yeah, it works really well. It's just battery operated. You just clamp it to the battery of the four-wheeler, and it does a really nice job. And I built this This is just a shower waterer, I guess you could call it, for gardening, and I kind of modified it so that it would fit right on this. Works really well. The battery's about shot in the four-wheeler, so it's not gonna be real spectacular. But this is really all that I need to do. And I go along on these, and ideally you want to put about a gallon on each of these. I had it timed at one point. I forgot what the time was to make a gallon, but it's really all there is to it. I just go along on these and get a good bit of water on them and move on. And really, as long as it's going to be as long as there's rain in the forecast, I should only have to do this one time just to get them watered in and established. So guys, that's all I've got for this video. I hope that y'all enjoyed this glimpse into this little project that we've got going on. Like I said, 80 cents or so a piece, 85 cents a piece for these trees. I hope to get maybe an average of $40 a piece after they get mature enough for us to start selling. So the return on investment should be pretty good, and it's great to be able to use some land that wasn't being used for anything. The most labor intensive part of this is the planting, the laying out of the rows. That is fairly labor intensive, just with a shovel and you know, some elbow grease. But after that, it's not too bad. What I do is I spray Roundup between the rows, and that just leaves me a strip where I can take the lawnmower and go up and down between the rows, keep them cleaned out pretty good. Roundup is really my best friend with these because it's not practical for me to have to take my trimmer and trim around all the trees. That does a lot of damage, and you know, it's just Roundup is really my best friend with these trees right here. As far as pests go, there's not a lot of pests that actually target these trees. The main problem that we have is deer. In that time of year where they're rubbing the velvet off of their antlers, what they'll do is they'll come up here to these trees. I think they must be softer than most trees, so they rub their antlers in these trees, and they do a fair amount of damage to the trees that they choose. Fortunately, they don't do a lot of trees at once, so it's not like a deal breaker. It's not something that I have to stop doing because I can't deal with the deer. So it's, you know, they don't do a ton of trees, thankfully, but they do a fair amount of damage to the trees that they do choose. Also, all I do is water these trees in when we first plant them. That's all that I have found that I needed to do. I have not had to fertilize them. I have not had to do any of that stuff. As long as you get some water on them, these Murrays are actually pretty hardy, and they do a pretty good job. Spruce trees, the typical classic spruce trees, don't grow in this area. That's more of a northern thing. So this is the reason that we plant these trees here. But that's it. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. Hope that this inspires you to maybe plant a little spot. If you've got an acre, half an acre of land, you can certainly plant some of these trees and hopefully get some return on your investment, and maybe use some land that's not being used for anything. But that's all I've got. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will see y'all next time.